Hey everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer. We've had a few interesting updates on the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. February 21st of 2024, I watched a woman, her family claimed to be a loving mother and known to be a top mom within her network of friends and family, walk into a courtroom in Arizona like she owned the place. Lori Vallow said good morning to the prosecutors and a few court attendees, flipping her gel curled hair, with her face glowing in gel makeup, with a smile, as if to say, "I'm God, hear me roar." It wasn't what you would expect to see from a woman who had months to think about her evil ways, especially since she was convicted of murder, given life sentences, and this was in an Idaho courtroom, prosecuted by Rob Wood and Lindsay Blake. Who was murdered? It's bad enough to murder a stranger or anyone, but what if I told you these murders were attached to her own two children, which were maimed and buried in her lover Chad Daybell's backyard? Let's not forget about the third person that was murdered, and that would be Tammy Daybell, her lover's innocent, loving wife, a mother of 5, who was also killed by this couple, along with allegedly her brother Alex Cox. Prosecutors and people following this case from all over the world believe that these murders occurred over greed, money, manipulation, and godly powers. Lori Vallow was transported from the Idaho prison back to Maricopa County, where she's being held in jail, accused of conspiring to kill 2 other family members, Brandon and Charles. Brandon was actually allegedly shot at by Lori's brother Alex Cox, but he survived that attempted shooting. Then Lori Vallow's husband of 12 to 13 years at the time, Charles Vallow. Charles was attacked, shot at, and killed in their Arizona home. And get this happened while their kids were still there. This happened during a time when allegedly Charles and Adam were planning an intervention to get Lori Vallow the mental help they believed she needed at the time. Charles Vallow especially believed that his wife, which is Mormon, had gone over the deep end. She had told him that she was a translated being and that she was the leader of the 144,000, the Church of the Firstborn. God told Lori that he needed her help to usher in the end of days, and they needed to rid the world of the dark spirits and zombies. And how did they get rid of all these evil spirits? Well, she and Chad used portals that they created, prayers, castings, and shocking evil plans in order to take on the zombies in her network and circle, as well as around the world. Lori, Chad, and their posse were working secretly to plan out the future actions attached to the return of Christ, and she had planned these events tirelessly, and I mean that. Lori was not sleeping. For this bunch, and some people refer to them as a cult, they believe that they were not aware of the evil in this world. They just had no clue about it. And basically, this group was like their own little secret service for heaven. Brandon once described them as people around them were dropping like flies, and it seemed that they had the power to deem anyone within a snap of a finger dead. You would think it would be hard to find 2 people this bad, but they were busy recruiting followers and helpers. Some of their closest people in this group were Melanie Gibb, Selima Thor, and even her own niece, Melanie Boudreaux. But one of the most loyal was her brother, Alex Cox, considered to be their protector. Alex and Selima, makes sense they got married because they both were considered to be protective angels. Many people following this case have waited for this moment that Lori would be facing a jury, a judge, the public for the death of her husband. They thought that Lori would possibly wake up. Her family seemed to believe that Lori was illusioned, okay, that she didn't understand the evil that she was partaking in. I believe that changed for most of the family members once they realized that the kids were no longer here. As for myself, I've always known Lori, and I never expected to see that happen. Let's just put it simply, because she's never been that person that her family members claims that she was. Lori Vallow is one of the most evil narcissists I've ever seen in my entire life. And we're about to see this woman walk in with the biggest ego you've ever seen. And remember, her kids are gone. Her husband is gone. Tammy's gone. Immediately, she puts on this smile, flips her hair, and looks at the prosecutor and talks to her. Has the nerve to talk to the prosecutor. Turns around, smiles at the public. It seems that Lori doesn't want to appear for her next hearing. And so she's asking the judge to grant that. They also were there to do some scheduling, so let's listen in.
Thank you, ma'am. Tell me your date of birth.
Lori Vallow Daybell, 6/26/1973.
All right, this is the time set for a complex case scheduling conference. I've received the complex case joint case management report that indicates discovery is ongoing and a large amount of discovery is about to be disclosed. Approximately 88,000 pages of discovery. I imagine that's going to take some time for the defense to get through. Mr. Terry, do you have any specific discovery issues that you need to bring to my attention today?
Judge, we have yet to receive the bulk of the discovery that's listed in there, so we don't know whether we have issues at this time. So it's going, as you understand, it's going to take some time to get through all the discovery. We have yet to receive, I guess, 20 terabytes of discovery, so we will make the court aware if there are any issues.
My intention today was to set another complex case management conference in approximately 60 days. Prior to doing that, though, is there anything from the state that we need to discuss?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Judge, given that we're going to be going through discovery for the next foreseeable months, then we would ask if you could waive Mr. Alex's presence at the next CCMC.
The state have a position on it?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll waive your appearance for the next complex case management conference. We're going to set that for April 24 at 8:30 a.m. We'll note that her presence is limited and not to be transported. At that time, we'll talk about where you're at in going through all that discovery. I imagine your trial date may not be realistic based on the amount of discovery that we'll discuss at that time. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll be recessing that whole thing.
All rise.
So there you go, guys. Serial killer mom, Lori Vallow, sitting in the hearing, glaring at the camera, breaking her neck. It appeared as though she was just pushing her head as far as it could go in order to look around that courtroom. For many of you who were hoping to see some sort of remorse or regret, sadly, that was not the case today. Lori Vallow was full of smiles and ego Wednesday morning, as she just seemed to think that she was walking into an audience just for her. I think probably for me, was it shocking or was it ballsy? I don't know how you want to call it. You can say in the comments below. But how she eyed this prosecutor and had some few sweet words to whisper to her as she walked past her. This is a little bit of a different approach for her, as far as if we compare it to her Idaho trial, how she dealt with those prosecutors. She just would refuse to look at them in most cases. Whereas here, Lori looks her straight, deep in her eye. This woman, she's on trial soon for the death of her own loving and supportive husband, Charles Vallow. Now, for some reason that we're not certain about, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell both despised Brandon Boudreaux. In fact, there was an attempt on his life, who they believe directly from her brother, Alex Cox, allegedly, but believing that, well, investigators believe that Lori was the main mastermind in these attacks. We're hearing there's a crap load of evidence, so that's interesting. So are they going to pull out some new information that we're not aware about? Are we going to see, some better text messaging? Are we going to see some better investigating where investigators actually did look into what happened to Charles that day that he was shot? And where did they get their conspiracy information and what is it? 20 terabytes. Okay, that's a lot. And I haven't seen a witness list yet, but also I haven't really had time to look. But it's going to be interesting. Is Melanie Boudreaux going to be a witness for Charles Vallow in this case? Will she be a witness for her ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux? Or will she continue to go on saying she had no idea what was happening? And there are clues that Melanie didn't know everything that might have been happening. Whether she's a good actress or not, we don't know, but we will know, especially when we go over Life Beyond the Grave and November, that are going to make you think that maybe, Melanie Boudreaux knew a lot more. So I think Brandon Boudreaux's trial is going to be just as interesting as Charles Vallow's. We know that these cases weren't taken as seriously by investigators as they should have at the beginning. If they would have, we might have been able to have prevented several deaths. I'm just glad I'm not the investigators. I would not have to, want to live with myself on this one. At some point during Charles Vallow's investigation, there was rumors saying that it was self-defense deemed by the investigators, and also it's on some of the documents. Those are some of the things that the prosecutor is going to have to be prepared for. Lori's going to look for any excuse, any loophole, any type of error or mistake. It's best to keep your mouth shut, do your investigation quietly and legally as possible, and just know that they're going to be looking for every loophole and every error every single second as trial approaches. Now, real quick, it just seems like Lori Vallow is uncomfortable. She also seems healthier and a little bit happier being back in Arizona. She must have be able to get her hands on things she can't in prison, and she's closer to her family. Listen, I'm a mother and I have a daughter. And I would say, and I always tell them, I said, I'm not going to take up for you if you were to steal or do anything. I'll be the first one to tell on you. But that doesn't seem to be the case with Lori's mother. I think a lot of Lori Vallow's issues is the fact that they always forgive her. They knew that she had this darker side. She was a rebel. And they always forgive her acting out moments. Her mom was the first one to make excuses for her. So I believe that, that's a lot of Lori's issues. She knows that her family's going to support her. I don't know so much who is on her side anymore. but I can tell you her mom will always be there for her. So, convicted murderer Lori Vallow basically asking to skip her next hearing, and the judge, in my opinion, shouldn't allow it. She should have to come every single time. And guys, just listening to them talk about the scheduling and the 88,000 documents, my gosh, this prosecutor's going to have her hands full. Haven't had a chance to look into her new team yet. Let's just hope that this prosecutor is going to have some help. So, April 24, 2024, Lori Vallow will not be at her hearing. Now, they said that the original trial is scheduled for August 1st of this year, but the discoveries, the amount of information to go through for the attorneys, both the defense and the prosecutor, is so overwhelming that they don't believe that that's going to stay at, well, the trial won't stay at August 1st, that they believe it may be pushed back some. And to those of you tuning in to catch a little glimpse of remorse coming from this woman, I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to ever happen. It just tells you the truth of who she really is. She just doesn't have remorse. She doesn't have the capability to have those type of emotions. And I don't believe she ever has. And when you understand that this woman doesn't carry emotions of sadness, happiness, caring, concern, remorse, guilt of any type, then you can understand why it was so easy for her to take the lives of her own two children. And I'm just glad that this isn't my child, because as a mother, this would probably tear your heart into pieces you never knew could break. So Chad Daybell also had a hearing just the day after, and his trial is due to begin April of 2024. It's actually quite interesting because it's April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2024. Lori Vallow's lover, now husband, Chad Daybell, is accused for conspiring to kill two of her children, his wife, and also as a murderer. He's facing the death penalty. We know that Lori was once facing the death penalty but got off due to a prosecutor's mistake. Chad Daybell is wanting to take that off the table as well, but so far has been denied. So we're thinking that this might be part of the game. Let's see if we can get a plea deal. I hope that's kind of hoping for that so that we can find out more details. See, that both of them were wondering, what's going on with this marriage. Chad doesn't seem to be all that into Lori, but sometimes there's indications he still cares, but it might be just a tactic for his defense for the moment. A lot of people suspect that Chad Daybell is not so much in love with Lori Vallow as he was before, but there's no proof of that. And, well, just wait until after trial. I think that's when you're going to find out a lot more. Now, before we go, I want to ask you guys to take a moment to check out these missing girls. We have Summer Wells that went missing, as well as Dulce. Share their pictures on your social media, please, especially their flyers. And guys, I would appreciate your help if you could. You can hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can also donate to Patreon at Chasing a Murderer. It's just some small, just a like and a subscribe really helps me out. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I got a few issues with the house again, guys. I know that it's been a struggle with my house the past few years. That mold that we got rid of is coming back. And I think it was a Nova that was responsible for that. So we're going to have to see what's happening with that. I love you guys, and I'll see